Hello and welcome to Business Reporter's The Future of Work campaign. Buildings are expensive. Expensive to buy, expensive to rent and expensive to operate. For commercial properties, and in particular those that house workplaces and offices, balancing these costs with employee productivity is essential. What stands to be gained if this problem was to be eliminated? And if the use of buildings actually became efficient? Employees would be more productive, able to focus on and dedicate more time to the jobs they are hired to do. And the overheads that businesses spend on their property would be minimised. And if humans have so far shown themselves to be largely incapable of effectively managing their space, then is it time for technology to help do the job for them? To discuss this, I'm joined by Nick Stockdale from Irisys. Good morning.
Good morning.
We've seen the workplace undergo a tremendous change over the last 10 years or so, and of course that's been accelerated even further by the pandemic. Can you give us an overview of what those changes have been and what the workplace is looking like right now?
It's been an unprecedented change. I think even before the pandemic, businesses were struggling to understand how their space in buildings were being used. Did they have too much space? Did they have too little space? Could you reduce the amount of space? The pandemic, of course, unprecedented sort of social experiment. And it is not clear at this point how things are going to change, but they are going to change. So people, I think, will come out of the pandemic with a different view of their office space. The employer and the building owner will have to deal with that. They will have to say, okay, we need to adapt. But they also should be able to say, well, there are cost savings to be made here. We can manage the requirement of a happy and efficient workforce and reduce the cost. Have we got too many conference rooms? Have we got too few hot desks? Have we got too many floors in this building? How can we make all of that fit together?
Every organisation wants to create a dynamic workspace and they want it to be an effective workspace. But I'm guessing the knock-on effect of that could be that you've actually got wasted workspace.
Yes, I think that's absolutely true. It would be obvious to find out that you had too much workspace, for example. Now you've got fewer people attending the office. You need less desks. What you need is more collaborative space. Maybe what you need is less space overall. So let's look at that waste. Let's look at that space being wasted and see how we can use it either more effectively or reduce the space used entirely. So what about the number of conference rooms? What about the number of meeting rooms? What about the number of desks? All of these questions need to be answered. And if you can optimise that, then you would have a saving in cost that you can realise quite quickly. But you need to react because the office space today will not be the same as it was pre-pandemic.
And when it comes to waste, it's not just space. You know, office owners and organisations are looking at energy. They're looking at a raft of different things that could be wasted. Give us an idea of those elements that they need to be aware of.
Exactly. I mean, we see this time and time again. If you can understand how the building is used, how those spaces are being used, first of all, you can reduce the amount of space. But secondly, you can reduce the amount of energy usage. Do you need to light and heat? Do you need the air conditioning running? Can the building adapt to its environment? You make the building more agile and more responsive. You will be able to make savings in energy. Another way to think about waste, of course, is employee productivity. Are they in a well-managed environment? Do they feel safe? Do they feel happy? Do they feel that they can get on effectively with their work? Particularly when you think about returning to work from a home working environment. If you come back to the office, will the facilities you need be available? Will the collaborative spaces be available? If the employees find it difficult to access that, they find it difficult to access each other, you will find a lack of productivity. So it's very important that the building works both for the employer and for the employee.
Give us an idea about Irisys. Tell us a little bit more about who you are and how you fit into this environment.
Certainly. Irisys is a business of 25 years history now. We spent the majority of our time up to now doing people counting for retail. So shops in the high street, sensors over the doorway, counting people in and out, and using that information to measure and make sure those shops are efficiently run. And in the last 5 years, we've started to do more and more projects in buildings. It's the same thing. You need to accurately measure people. And we do this in a non-intrusive way. So the sensors look down from above the doorway. They see people moving around, but they just see the patterns of motion. You cannot identify yourself or have the feeling that you're being watched. So you can place the sensors at the doors to the building, for example, entrances to floors, conference rooms, office spaces, and you have very, very accurate measurement of when and where people are moving. And we've also added in other levels of sensing as well. So you can go all the way down to the desk level. Is this desk occupied? Simple sensor under the desk will tell you that. So you have this granularity of information. So those are the sensors, and that's only one part of the story. You have to add the intelligence to it. So we have our system called True Occupancy that collects all of the data from the sensors, brings it all together, manages it, and can present it forward. And it may be presented either as a dashboard to the person who is managing the building, or the data from within it is being fed into, for example, building management systems. But you're getting very, very accurate, well-managed data that is highly representative of what is actually happening in that space.
And once you've got that data, what are the benefits that you can gain from it? What do you do with that data?
You use the data to really work out what the reality is of what's happening. You're able to say, well, I've got a large conference room over here and a small one over there. How are these being used? Would we be better to divide that space down into more smaller rooms, for example? So you get that information. You can make sensible and sensitive decisions with your environment. Where we really started to reveal the value here was working with a wide estate of property, which they didn't really understand how it was being used. Well, we fitted the sensors relatively simply on entrances, and they realised that the buildings just weren't being used in the way they thought. The outcome of this was they were able to close at least 2 buildings and have around about $10 million savings in property from doing that. So very, very low cost of installation of this system is able to give you a high and achievable benefit.
What about other buildings where you've been working on, where you've been able to equally benefit the organisations behind them?
We've done a lot of work in the university environment. University in Sydney, for example, were able to work out that actually they didn't need to build another lecture theatre complex. They had more than enough space with what they already had, and they could use that money for the benefit of the students in a different way. So those are the examples of just looking at how the space is being used and what the reality of the building is. And until you do that measurement, you just don't know.
Now, some people, being a little bit sceptical, might say, oh, this is all very well, but it's quite an elaborate way to find out how many people are using a building and when. Surely, old systems and manual systems, surely that would do the job, wouldn't it?
I think no is probably the polite answer to that, actually. Because a user of the building is not able to see the whole space. You may be able to see a snapshot and determine that, hey, it's busy in here some of the time in the week, but you don't see the overall, and you certainly can't see what's going on in another building. So when you fit a sensor system, remember, you need very few sensors actually to monitor an entire building. You just put them at the crucial points. But that simple, apparently simple looking system gives you the valuable information of exactly what goes on in that building 24/7. And you can see the impact of changes, and the user will see the impact of changes.
Well, lots of change to look forward to, but also a lot of exciting opportunities that can be gained from being able to monitor the usage of our various buildings. It's been great finding out more. Nick Stockdale from Irisys, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.